But yeah, speaking on my side of the England experience now, basically you can hear now. All right, good, enough respect. Yeah, so basically speaking now, just giving a recount. I'm speaking on my initial start in the empowerment business, and this whole start began without a degree of an empowerment structure. So the parent setting or the household setting would have been one that it was a single parent household. The mother would have basically had multiple kids. At the time of us, it was six. It then now ended up reaching a situation whereby uh, basically as siblings we had to separate. We had to go to different geographies. So some of my siblings had to go to America. I had to go to England. And a couple of my other siblings at the time had to stay back in Jamaica. Speaking about my journey in England, it would have been one that obviously not having the parent and parents there resulted in me then having to be experiencing foster care environment. Prior to that, there would have been physical trauma. So then no, myself as a child growing up, all I would have known at the time was anger and pretty much a degree of no form of positivity in the sense of feeling like you're worth it or you feel like you are worthy. Being told that you're gonna come out to be nothing and basically, not having anyone at all there in the form of family resulted in me feeling like to say that I was not supposed to be here, not supposed to be living. And basically speaking, even being exposed to foster care before 6 years old, and the reality that I had to be in a household with strangers, you know, um, that was a lot to accommodate. Being expelled from school, uh, basically not going to school for at least 2 years, and then no, when I did have to get myself back enrolled in the schooling system, it reached into a situation that I had to be in boarding school first to try and assimilate myself or reassimilate myself back into school. That would have been the journey in the England phase, and this would have been prior to me being 10 years old. So here it is now that I'm getting myself prepared to return to Jamaica. And I returned to Jamaica at 10/11. Returning to Jamaica, not having the feeling that anybody at all wants to be around me or anybody at all value who I am or even me myself value anybody. And to be honest, I was very much in a bitter state mentally, emotionally. And as a child, because I grew up and I said, boy, you go on now. It has to be the negativity that I would have had myself surrounded by. So coming back to Jamaica, being then in a household with one of the parents who at the time, would have been feeding the kind of negative energy, it then pushed me to go to school and to just express myself at school. So school just the same coming back, Jews Avenue Primary, Jamaica, we call that pretty much along the fringes of Waterhouse. You're basically just exposed to what you need to be exposed to from the community and pretty much even from within the school system itself. And be it that I come from England, obviously you have to grow up fast. You have to get yourself in a situation where you showcase that you're not weak per se. So that would have been the situation coming back to Jamaica, and this would have been when I was at grade 6. And then now, I guess what became the turning point for me was when I was told that I am going to be worthless for the penultimate time, and I just something within me just say, yo, you have to prove them wrong. You're not going to be worthless, as I said at the time, like my mother, because that was what was expressed to me, that I'm going to be worthless like she, and I'm not gonna come out with nothing like her, and ray. So I despised any association with her for that. You know what I mean? So this is then now when now we say, all right, here we go now. I'm not proving her wrong. And this is where I recall uh, deciding I'm going to join the school challenge quiz team from primary school. This would have been at the time when primary school was playing prep school, and I recall having a affinity for geography, social studies, general knowledge, and that is when I say, all right, I'm going to use a platform here and get myself prepared for just demonstrate that I am not going to be nothing. And yeah, we had a good run, Jules Avenue Primary that year. This would have been the year 2001, I believe, 2002. And this was when we eventually dropped out in the semifinals against Arden Prep. But that was the time that I realized that, yeah, man, Oshane, you have something within you. And you definitely don't have to just follow along the path that people push onto you, this negative energy, So this is then now when we say, all right, boom, we're at GSAT. I ended up at Mona High School, sorry, in Jamaica. And at the time, you know, Mona High School, I don't know if it is the situation that it is now, but back then, Mona High School would have been in a setting where, you would have had like high school rivalry. So JC, Jamaica College, would have been nearby. And, as a youngster growing up still, in teenage years, and, this is now where as a young man, you feel like you need to associate yourself with a crew or with a crowd. And that led to me, again, following a certain path that resulted in certain weapons being carried to school, certain confrontations with JC boys taking place, and eventually then me ending up in a problem with the dean of discipline. And eventually at grade 8, I had to be removed from Mona High School, and this is where it was recommended for me to be at Oberlin High School, and this is in St. Andrew, Jamaica. So it was recommended I attend Oberlin High School to be closer to my mom, uh, pretty much not my birth mom, but we still call her my mom nonetheless. And it was then the situation that it was also recommended I join the track and field team, to try and get rid of some of them energies. So I believe this would have been the start of the fitness experience, track and field in Jamaica. So, being at Oberlin High School now, trying to find my way, not really being that inclined to uh, track and field because this tights thing, But at the end of the day, it was grade 9, and then I moved from grade 9 to grade 10. We're beginning to get ready for CXC, Caribbean examination, council exams. And again, this is where bio, there would have also been history, social studies, chemistry, uh, English. Those subjects began to highlight that, yeah, man, I have an affinity for it. So, I pursued those subjects, and at the same time, it would have been a case that I would have been evolving into leadership. So I became the captain of Oberlin High School track and field team, I believe for the 2006 year. And this is then where I realized that, yes, there is a degree of leadership that is there. Prior to also this whole experience of track and field, I was also assimilated in martial arts. So this is where Kung Fu kickboxing, martial arts came in. And again, this would have been a tool, if you will, or an environment to try and help me to manage my temper, my negative energies. So getting myself inclined in Kokibo, Kung Fu kickboxing, martial arts, as well as getting myself enrolled in track and field, basically set the platform for me to continue on my journey where I am today, where it comes to me being a martial arts instructor, self-defense instructor, at the same time being an individual who is also engaged in fitness. I left Oberlin High School in sixth form, and then ended up pretty much moving into UE. And the experience of getting into UE is basically such that you don't really have any form of college fund that I believe many uh, families would have put in place within the upper income segments of the society in Jamaica and even in other countries. Nevertheless, though, it was a case that they said, what, make me just place a foot forward. Uh, I should mention as well that even making my steps to UE at the time, it would have been a case that my late grandmother, not by blood, but nonetheless, she would have been one of the first persons to help me to believe in me, Miss Evelyn Hyatt. She basically would have been the first individual to put up money for me to basically move forward and to go through university. The sad thing, though, is that she passed when it came the time for first semester exams. So that then now sunk me back into a state where this was like the first person who helped me to believe in me. And here it is, she dropped out and gone. So my exam performance for that semester was extremely terrible. And I actually sat out the year. And this is then now where I began to question where am I going to go or how am I going to move forward with doing things. Um, at the end of the day, this is where I said, you know what, I'm going to try out for the UE track team. And this was then my first experience in terms of, you know, devoting myself to hard training, you know, as a student athlete of UE track team at the time. You know, you have to basically be present for the morning session as well as then not present for the evening session. And then at the time I was a commuting student. So at the end of the day, you're basically doing this 5 days a week where you have to try to make yourself present in the morning and you then know have to go to class. Class sometimes take you up to like 5 o'clock in the evening. You then know left class and you have like a 2-3 hour session after that for training. And that's like at least 5 days a week, 3 months non-stop in the off season. And that experience led to me then having Achilles tendon rupture. And that at the time was extremely blowing because that would have been like my only opportunity to get a scholarship, if you will. But then this is where it reached a situation that I ended up back in contact with one of my older siblings called her Shelly. And Shelly basically made the phone call, reach out to me and said like, yo, I try to reach out to you for years. So this would have been at the time, I believe, 18 years after I had to leave the household with her there as my older sister at the time. You know what I mean? And she basically reached out to say, yeah, mom, I'm Jamaica, man. I'm on link up. So, you know, that was a time when she and I made contact. And that was also the opportunity for me to make contact with my blood mother at the time via the phone call. And, you know, that was an experience that was kind of not moving for me because, you know, at the end of the day, there are certain pent up energies that I have towards the whole of them, you know, making me feel like I see everybody just dash me away. And, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, I had to go through what I go through by myself and there was no family for me. But nonetheless, me say, you know what, let me try and hear what they have to say. And this is when I came across my two younger brothers who were living at the time in Olympic Gardens. And this was just down the road from where I am. Uh, Somebody asked if I'm related to Kobe Bryant. I can't answer that question. Um, so yeah, man. My two younger brothers at the time living just down the road from me at the time, and you know, we basically never really knew that we were siblings because it was likely that we came across each other as I was going through my years in Malines. But nevertheless, though, at the time when my sister come in and I spoke with my mom, this was the time when I say, you know what, I'm going make a push and link up with my two younger brothers at the time, you know. And this is where, you know, this at least set the tone for them and myself to rekindle some time. So this would have become now a sibling household. And with the three of us were there. And my younger brother, he was at UTech at the time. There were times that he would have had to go on the student work program. That's a popular program that, you know, our tertiary students engage in annually in Jamaica. And there, it would also been a case that my younger brother from, you know, related to him, he too would have basically been preparing himself to enter med school, and he would have been doing so for scholarship because paying for med school at the time 2.5 million, uh, three three youngsters, no parents or no form of money at all, is somewhat hard to come by. So that staying with those two younger siblings and see that they too, knowing that they both of them basically grew each other at the time because, you know, our mother was not able to be with them, and they had to pretty much, you know, stay with each other for a couple of times, well, by themselves, until eventually they ended up in a household with the guardian, who then eventually resulted in them becoming separated and then became rejoined again. So in essence, to know that my two younger brothers, just the same, were pushing to try and make it, gave me the additional impetus to say, you know what, Oshane, go hard just the same. So this is where then I said, all right, how can I make some extra cheddar or extra money? And this is where the thought came to me to aerobics at UWI. So I would have become a member of the student union um, team. It would have been like a student worker experience. And because of the experience I received working with Master Bryant, who would have been the individual who exposed me to fitness, formal fitness in the capacity of a professional personal trainer. So at the time, he used to work at Jim Ligani. He used to work at Express Fitness in Boulevard, St. Andrew. And, when I would have attended his sessions and I see how him just flow and have everybody run into his sessions. And, he allowed me then now to come in and feature in his sessions. And even with NHT, National Housing Trust, Guardian Life, I was there to feature in it. I said, you know what, I'm going to take a leap of faith and become an aerobics instructor at UWI, Students Union. So I did that. I basically said, all right, let's run the first class. And lo and behold, when I ran that first class, and it was like the soca season, so in Jamaica and even in other Caribbean islands, when it comes to soca time, everybody flocked the gym. And when I was leading that first class, and it was a time when the students then basically would have finished school early, like on a Thursday, and everybody would have just come at the student union and seen the class pack up. And there was just a huge demand for more, and that was then when I said, all right, let me see how the next class go. And again, run our next class, and the average number was like 30 plus persons per class. And this was then where I said, all right, I'm going to take it a little bit more serious, and I'm going to make a leap of faith and try and get my first personal training client. And this was then where I said, you know what, once I get this first personal training client, let's see where I take it from there. So got that first client, Crystal Campbell. She basically experienced some great results, and from there it's like wildfire on the UWI campus. Uh, more and more and more students, female students, basically wanted to experience personal training or basically join the aerobics classes, and that was when I realized that I really do have uh, some potential in this space. So this was then where I said, you know what, let me try and read a little bit more about the whole professional realm of fitness and personal training. And this is then also a time that I would have been trying to see how I'm going to infuse it with my degree that I was pursuing at the time. So my degree background is in geology and geography. uh, but at the same time too, it was a case that I was doing coursework in biology. And it pretty much was a case now that I was saying to myself, you know what, I have an affinity for fitness. I basically have experience in the martial arts as well. So let me see where or how I can be best capable of fusing everything together. So this was then the period that I said, you know what, considering that it cost money to get the certification, and at the time there was no means of getting that kind of funding to get a certification. And the certification is the American Council of Exercise Certified Personal Trainer course, and at the time I believe it was like 499 US dollars at the time. So finding 500 US was a stretch. And this was then when one of my clients pretty much said, you know what, Shane, me go fund you. And her name is Miss White, big up. She basically made that move for me, and I went overseas, did that certification course, and in addition to doing that, I basically had the opportunity of going into the Jamaica Defense Force uh, for the officer uh, training opportunity, and having the experience of going to Up Park Camp and going through the recruitment exercises and having dialogue with the major at the time. It then now led me to fully secure myself in my entrepreneurial endeavors. I won't discuss what it is that he and I discuss, but nevertheless, though, that is what allowed me to say, yeah, man, JDF, the journey or the life of JDF per se is not it, because at the end of the day, my journey has to take me towards reaching the world in terms of empowering them, and basically being that vehicle to promote positive change and to pretty much yield the kind of outcomes that I know my spirit uh, pushes me to yield. And at the same time, I know that the prophecies that would have been spoken over my life would have mentioned. So that basically resulted in me saying, you know, yeah, man, I will continue on this journey of entrepreneurship. I know, I recall, be that I was at Olympic Gardens at the time, it would have been a case that, you start the entrepreneurial journey. You don't really have no startup money, you're basically starting from the ground, and you basically I say, all right, boom, you have to find enough money to pay bills. You have to find enough money to feed yourself. Uh, Pretty much on top of that too, I know that my two younger brothers, especially the one who was the last of all of us, him a push it to come to med school. It was like a responsibility on me as the eldest of the three of us to say, you know what, yeah, mama, for try to make something work. And there was an opportunity in geology that presented itself in Canada, and probably some of you are gonna say, "Oh, John, no, I shouldn't have turned that down." But either way, it was a situation of oil, and it was just something within me that said, "Yo, no, don't take that move, don't make that move." As much as that opportunity presented itself, that was not the move to make, and that was then where I said, you know what, focus on UE. And as much as it was tough walking from Olympic Gardens to UE, which is like, well, at least 6 miles to come up a UE, basically stay up a UE, work the clients then with our work, and until you get the money, you basically a walk about down, and pretty much them time they just have to just tough it out in terms of eating one time a day. If that what you eat is mango, a mango. If it's a case that you have to deal with a bulla, you buy a bulla. Or if it's a case that you have to just drink some water and you go home and you look after your 1 pound of rice with oil, you deal with that. And that basically was pretty much the experience for the first 3 months, until it was a case then now that I realized that the clientele began to reach to the stage of breaking even, and then now it was a platform for me to at least begin further to expand the operations. So all of this basically would have been like a period of 2012, because I finished UE at 2012. So between the period of 2012 to 2013, that would have been what I was explaining right there. And then 2013 to 2015 would have been the period that me say, you know what, all right, yeah, let me see where I can go in terms of if I really invest myself in entrepreneurship, see where it can go. Um, this would have been the period now that I had to learn a lot about entrepreneurship, or learn a lot about the business world. And basically, it's about also trying to fully cement myself in what is my path in business per se. So I had to learn obviously about the whole realm of capitalism versus socialism, or basically the solopreneur versus pretty much having a big entity, or you basically talk about business growth versus business scalability. Having to go through that process of learning and trial, bringing on people to try and team up with you, and you realize that at the end of the day, not everybody can mesh with your energy per se. So that's the human resource challenge per se. It was tough. It was tough, but I would say where I am sitting now, it is a rewarding experience to have gone through that phase. So essentially, fast forward from 2015, and then moving into the phase of 2018, whereby OB Fitness would have been a sole proprietorship, and I had to basically learn the experiences, legal experiences, etc., of being a sole proprietor, to then moving into becoming a company owner, and understanding that at the end of the day, the laws that surround being a company owner is different than that being a sole proprietor. All of that was a huge thing to pretty much take in and to learn. So learning the legal side of business and learning the whole aspect that business is what it is, business. You're basically doing what you need to do to make a profit, while at the same time keeping in mind that you pretty much have to navigate the realms of keeping all members of the stakeholders uh, in a state of being okay. That was a huge challenge, and this would have also resulted in me having to say, you know what, I need to take a step back from, let's just say, for example, pushing forward with socialization or pushing forward with relationship as an example. All of those things had to take a step back for me to be able to understand better the process. Uh, this obviously would have had to coincide with personal related issues, such as basically having to, at least allow myself to say, you know what, okay, let me engage with my mother at the time, well, not mother at the time, but with my mother, and to basically to find out if there can be a way for me to basically move past all of those kind of energies that would have been there from childhood. And similarly, I had to go through that process with the father as well. So doing that, where I am now, I am still at a place where I don't entirely say, you know what, okay, where it comes to the love or it comes to the engagement per se, that I am fully welcoming. And this pretty much also transcends itself in terms of how I operate as an individual, whereby I don't generally trust people, generally speaking. And in the context of individuals, majority of individuals, I just see them as talking. They don't really have enough things to back it up. They don't really have the wherewithal to, endure and to pretty much have the strength and the capacity to not bail out per se. But that is something that I know, to realizing that that is my experience, should also be accepting that people go through different phases at different points in time. And at the end of the day, people are all unique in and of themselves. And it is for myself and how best we can align things ought to be. Um, so today, now, OB Fitness exists, and OB Fitness exists as a company, a limited liability. And the businesses that OB Fitness work in or actually have operational, they do include personal training. They do also include events such as Hike and Geo Explore. And now it's pretty much also a case that we also now engage in content. And where I am concerned in terms of content, it's basically a place now that I am pretty much saying I am ready to engage in, putting myself out there and allowing people to come into contact with the stories and even so the journeys, and pretty much even seeing for themselves what OB Fitness actually is all about. And it's not really about perfection. It's not really about basically trying to appeal and appease uh, to the status quo. It's pretty much just about being true and real, to the point that we can highlight to people on a whole that if you as an individual have the drive within to push for a particular path, and you basically feel it within your spirit that this is the way that you ought to go, then do it and go for it. It doesn't matter if it's a case that it means you will have to be, restricting yourself in terms of, not necessarily having the social backing, or you're not necessarily having the economical backing, or you're not necessarily having the kind of comfort in the environment to allow you to take your time. You have to just understand that the process is a process of, you know, building, strengthening you. And at the same time, with you enduring, you are pretty much refining, you are polishing. And that basically is what makes the journey a beautiful journey for you. At the end of the day, when you know tune in to this kind of live or recording, you basically have the opportunity, and you even have the decision, the choice, whether or not you would like to follow a similar path, or you would like to really live your life at 100%. That is on you. But where I am concerned, I am not going to allow anybody at all to stop me from doing what I am doing at this point in time and what I feel comfortable doing at this point in time. And that is basically to just do things as them come. If my spirit says I'm going to do it, may I do it. I am not itching. I'm not stop for nobody at all. And I am grateful today to have platforms such as, for example, TikTok now, or YouTube, or Facebook, basically to allow the story to be told. And then obviously we have our website as well, which is the platform we own, that basically can continue to leverage the story. But at the end of the day, it's all about doing what I know I am here to do, and it's pretty much to empower. And I am fully grateful that I am here today to still be alive to do it, knowing that many times ago I could have been long and gone. And this is why now, I'm using now to do what I need to do now. So I hope that this discussion, this what is considered as the first of Oshane Bryant Corner, would be one that at least will begin the process of helping to create a community of like-minded individuals who basically would like to continue to, and even probably even start the whole journey of living the life to the fullest, and to basically do so in a manner that is fulfilling, not just for yourself, but even pretty much for other individuals, as how you ought to be living, specific to how God has pretty much ordained it. So that is where I am at for today. Thank you very much for tuning in.